Yeah, can only second that. So the Startup Association is an amazing organization. We will also be at the Founders Day. Most of the events they do, you will find us there. We're usually present. Yeah, awesome what they're doing for the ecosystem. So sign up and become a member in case you haven't yet. So today we will be talking about becoming an AI first software agency, do's and don'ts. That's sort of the title we've given to it from back then. Yeah, showing you a little bit the way that we've taken along the journey. But firstly, very shortly, an introduction to Nenad and myself, because probably some of you don't know us, or most probably. Quickly myself, I've been in startups and tech for the last 17 years now. Before that, I was working at UBS, studied business and economics. I was a manager in Deal, which was sold to Ringe. Then together with Nenad, I co-founded Movu, which was sold to Baloise Insurance. Then I was the CEO of Bexio, but after the company was sold, so I was doing the integration with Mobiliar. And together with Nenad, I'm co-founder and co-CEO of Holycode for the last 4 years almost now. Yeah, and that's still what we're actively doing today. Maybe Nenad, a couple of words to yourself.
Sure, thanks a lot. Pleasure to be with all of you guys today. I'm also a fellow startupper, very similar, let's say, path as Laurent did so far. So we actually did many of the things together. The difference is that basically I come from the tech side. So I'm a techie, studied computer science, and then worked in the startup industry for, also around 17, 18 years so far, serving in different companies, mostly lately as a CTO or CIO. Yeah, that's a quick about me. And also, besides that, I live in Switzerland for 14 years. Now, currently, I'm in Books in Aargau, have 3 kids. So it's also a full-time job at home on weekends.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Nenad. Then quickly about Holycode, just to give you a bit of an idea why we are talking about this topic. So Holycode, we're approximately 400 employees. The vast majority of those are software employees, software engineers that are actually working on startups and scale-ups. So this is currently our client ecosystem, the ones that we're working with. Obviously, there's also some big names on it, but the big majority are startups and scale-ups. That's what our heart is beating for. That's what we're working for. And there's more and more SMEs by now and a couple of corporates, but yeah, the majority is still there. You see, we're part of Swiss Startup Association, SIGTIC, and some other areas. That's quickly it. So let's dive into it. Usually I would now start with these questions, but in an online session, this is a bit difficult. So we will just jump past this. We would usually ask, who is using ChatGPT on a daily basis, or is using Code on a daily basis, who is using Perplexity, who has used tools like Lovable or Base44. Are you using programming tools such as Codex, Cursor, Code, and similar? Do you have brought AI tools into production already and this sort of stuff? But yeah, we can jump past that because it's just a warm up. And I guess with this nice weather at the moment, everyone's warmed up. So yeah, that the AI topic, it's been around for a long time. It's not that, since ChatGPT came, AI is actually a topic. AI has been there in the 80s, 90s already. But since this Gen AI, which ChatGPT basically was the wake-up moment in November 2022 for, everyone is talking about it. And we could now go and talk about, okay, what happened since then? There's so much news coming out all the time that I think we don't need to specifically go about that. But AI, that's important, is bigger than just Gen AI. Gen AI is basically the LLMs and everything that we are now learning to do with Code, Anthropic, ChatGPT, and all of these tools. But it's been there a long time before, and most of your mobile phones have been using AI far before 2022. That's just for us to keep in mind. But yeah, the big inflection point was definitely the go live of ChatGPT. Now, a bit more than 3 years ago, I would say. And why is this such a big topic and much talked about topic? This is, it's not an exact data or anything like that. Just it's a visualization of it. So we as humans, we really struggle to understand exponential growth. We also saw that during Corona. Nobody really understood what's happening with those cases. And as an organization, this is very, very difficult to map and to change the way that you're working, right? So let's say the inflection point here was somewhere in 2022. You see how exponentially this will keep evolving. What an organization would have to be able to do on a linear basis, and what happens to organizations that linearly are not doing anything to it or about AI. This is just a very plastic way of looking at it, but it's clear that the technology is moving faster than what organizations can, and organizations that are not moving at all for quite some time will not see that they're falling behind drastically, and then at some point, it's probably quite late on, they will figure out, oops, we should have probably taken this more seriously. That's one of the core messages I think that is important. And you know that obviously there's a lot of areas where there's being tests done. OpenAI has their test where they do 44 different jobs and see how well they perform. And the reality is that, 2 years ago, on almost all of these jobs, AI was not able to perform better than humans. And now in 26, on almost all of them, AI is able to perform better. Then the next caveat is, but it's a very, very clearly defined job. It's not the VUCA chaos world that we're living in. 2 years ago, it was like, we will never get there. So I just think those are always the next hurdles that will be surpassed. And I think it's also going to happen in this case. And as I said before, for us, it's super difficult to understand exponential growth and where that can lead to. And even if it was slower AI, it's still capable of running 24/7 if done the right way. So it just never gets tired, right? That's the sort of sentence you hear a lot. But we don't want to make this an hour of, we know AI, and this is, theoretically how you do it. That's not the point. So what we want to do is we want to give you a quick rundown of some of the experiments and some of the ways that we have used AI or are using AI, what worked for us and what didn't work for us. So let's get into it. The first one was probably like 2 years ago or so, like everybody probably. The first thing we did was add a meeting notes solution. Ours is called Read AI. We didn't develop it ourselves, obviously. There's tons of those tools out there. Today, almost every organization that compliance or legal-wise is allowed to use it is using something like this. And it's a super easy add-on, right? You just plug it in. It shows you the transcript. It records the whole meeting. It gives you certain scores on it. In our case, it even shows it in the calendar, so we can quickly see whether a meeting was good or not. Super easy to add, super useful, works. So that's something that we said, that's a good solution. We approved it and we added it. So very easy. Second one is an outreach tool. Almost every company today needs to use one as well. In our case, we started using Ample Market. The cool thing about it is this co-pilot where, it's not just you write the text and then it sends it out to 100 people, but actually goes and checks the social media channels of that person and then really tries to create an individualized messaging based on what we offer towards that person. And then you can either have it on pending, which means a human in the loop checks it before it's being sent out. And then there's the one that are on autopilot where you just say, look, for these, you've done it well, just keep going. And it's basically creating messages and sending it on its own, which you have to feel comfortable with if you want to use it, right? But that's also something that we said it works. I mean, it's not perfect by far, but it does work, and we're quite happy with the results, even though, as a software agency, all of you get probably 20 emails per day from software agencies that they can help you with. So yeah, it's not the best channel, but it does work. And then the third one, you will probably not be able to hear it. Let's see if I can even open it. We created an AI avatar. That was 1.5 years ago. So this is me talking. You cannot hear it.
Try to unmute. You can unmute.
Yeah, you can. No, you cannot hear it. I know it. Cannot hear it. But basically, so this was an AI avatar that we created. There was like 3 minutes of video of me and 3 minutes of text, 2 different tools. And then we could use that to create whatever outputs. So this here, obviously I look like I'm on drugs. But apart from that, we just put in a text and that was the outcome, right? It said it in my voice, and it was me doing it. I was just moving too much, so it didn't work at that time. Yeah, that's how we got to it. But it felt a bit, a bit weird to us, a bit icky. That's why we decided not to pursue that, even though for some of our customers, we actually did. We implemented AI avatars that are doing training sessions or training materials and stuff like that. So this works. And it's also crazy how this has evolved. When we did that 1.5 years ago, Nenad, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we needed 10 seconds of compute for 1 second of video and voice. And today it's more like 1-to-1. So you cannot still do,
it's quite close.
That's correct, huh? Okay. So you can still not do real time because it still needs 10 seconds to compute if you want to have a 10-second answer. But we're getting very close to the point where an avatar of all of us could be doing this meeting in the future. So yeah, it's quite crazy. But for us, it failed, but there's a huge, huge industry here that is doing avatar solutions that might work quite well. And then the fourth one, then I'll hand over to Nenad in the middle, is obviously last year, Base 44, the company that was built by one guy and sold for, I don't know, 80 millions, or Lovable that started to go off like a rocket ship from Sweden, came up. And we also started, testing them out and seeing what they can do and how they work. So I'm, as not being a software developer, never having written more than one line of code, did program our absence management completely new with Lovable over actually 2 weekends in the end, but the first one was done in 1 weekend, and showed it to the team. And that was a bit of a wake-up call where they realized, okay, shit, if even our dumb, non-techie CEO is able to build this by himself, then there's something happening. And that was a real wake-up call for everyone in our company to start properly engaging and properly using AI tools, even though they were still a bit more buggy back then. But yeah, the development was huge. And at the same time, Nenad was looking into building something with Base 44.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So interestingly enough, so like we being techies, which was a difference from Laurent, for tech people, especially like super senior engineers, this thing with the AI coming in and trying to do some, let's say, programming and so on, for us was a kind of, we actually had a blockage against it, which was a really interesting, let's say, situation, because in theory, like we techies should be able to actually adopt it as one of the first ones. So yeah, until some certain tools came out, the faith in AI actually writing the code among the tech, among developers was really not that high. And then obviously when these tools came out, we started actually changing our opinion. Like we techies, we like shifting our gears and actually building software on our own and writing the code on our own and so on. But nowadays we actually see that this is actually shifting. And back then we tried Base 44. For me, that was interesting because it was built by one guy, and it was really like one-man show, the company that was sold for, I think, 60 or 70 millions. And then I said, oh, I have to look at this. I mean, definitely there's some value. And I tried, and this was actually this small app below, which says my products. This actually I managed to build within, I don't know, like 1 hour or something like this. And then I thought, wow, this looks really great. And then this was the moment when we actually started looking more deeper into it. But obviously this brought some challenges as well, which we will talk about later. Then the next experiment was actually not sticking to these tools like Base 44, but actually trying to go to professionalize, let's say, the setup. So we looked at Cursor together with Holycode, working together with Holycode. And actually we did a couple of projects. This here is actually a real project for the customer. We did for a customer where we gained around, I would say, 15, maybe even 20% speed increase. And what was interesting at that time, we were actually assisted by AI. So we were still in the main driving seat, being assisted by AI. Okay, we can move on. And then the next experiment we did, this was more in the QA area. It's actually end-to-end QA automation, writing basically automatic tests end-to-end. And here you have, you don't see the numbers, it's a little bit blurry, but basically the biggest, let's say, the one that is the first column that says 2 hours, 43 minutes, that's actually the time that we needed to write 16 cases on our own with a human, basically, to cover certain test coverage. Certain test scenario. Then the one in the middle, it's actually human being assisted by AI, and we reached around 1 hour, 30 minutes or something like this for exactly the same thing, same quality. And then the last one is fully actually AI autonomous. Obviously, there was some configuration needed and some time basically to set up the AI properly to be able to do this. But then afterwards, actually the same 16 cases Actually, I would even argue that they wrote it in a better quality, or it wrote it in a better quality. It was written in 33 minutes. So from 2 hours, I think 30 to actually 30 or 40 minutes altogether, which was that was the first, let's say, like very important result that we got that triggered us actually to look much deeper into it. And then Laurent, maybe you can switch here on the product process a little bit as well.
Sure. I mean, we didn't only use it in tech. Obviously, we also used it in other areas. So if we have a new customer, we usually do a discovery where we try to understand how do we develop this for you, or what is it that you actually need to have developed. And that's usually, let's say, 5-6 workshops with quite some work in between to make sure we come up with the right prototype and the right backlog and everything around that. That used to take a lot of time. And then basically what we did, or the team did, is we came up with a process that includes a variety of different services to get us to that result. And we were already back then, I think, around 30% faster. Today, I think we are more than 50% faster because we've kept iterating on it and using better tools. But it's really just a mixture of having the data digitalized, or also the workshops digitalized, and then being able to feed that to LLMs with the right prompts and using the right tools to create prototypes out of it, and being just very iterative and very fast. That was crazy because it just showed us how quickly we will be able to do much more in much less time, and either with much less people or just developing a lot more solutions in parallel. Today we're at more than 50% more speed on this area. There are areas we cannot speed up. You still need to talk to humans to understand what humans want. And that's also relevant, and you need to do these iterations. So I think we're very close to the maximum performance that we can get out of that. But yeah, it's crazy to see how much we've been able to improve on this.
Thanks. And now we actually switch a little bit to the later stage experiments, which is actually more recent that we did. And here there was a big change, or in November, actually last year, the Claude released Opus 4.5, which I believe completely changed the way how AI affects the software engineering industry, basically. And since that was the moment when we realized, okay, we are not anymore assisted, or we won't be anymore assisted by AI. We will assist AI in the future to write the software applications. And this is a concrete example. We built an ESG platform that we offer to our customers now for data ingestion and reporting and audit purposes. And basically, together with Claude Code, this was only like with the ChatGPT, we did the project scoping. We did some analysis with the Perplexity to do the research. And then based on the outputs from there, we prepared the input for the Claude. And based on this, I was actually working on this project, so I have a lot of insights here. So based on this, one person, or let's say 1.5 FTEs, managed to build the whole platform within a very short time period. And obviously now there are some polishings going on, and there's some additional features being added and so on. But this was really the moment where we completely switched. So the AI was doing most of the job, and we were assisting AI in controlling that it does what it's needed. And there, I think probably I wrote 200 to 300% speed increase, or 2 to 3 times faster than we should be. I think I could even bet that we did it even faster than that. So like we didn't run the project separately, like in traditional way, so we cannot really compare, but it was extremely fast and very good quality. The big problem was here, obviously, to control the AI in terms of not only about the features and the end result that is being built, but also the certain architectural and coding standards we want to actually maintain. And there, obviously, you have also security aspect. You have best practices. You have coding standards. You have, using solid principles or some architectural decisions. So this was a bit challenging there. And since then, we actually learned a lot. So we found a way to control it much better. So we can go to the next one. And now with the last experiment, we are actually going to the fully autonomous 24/7 coding capabilities. So we are actually testing this on one real life customer project example now. And actually this week we are expecting the final results of it. But the idea here is that we do together, as Laurent said, with the product, with this workflow that we have, we prepare everything that is needed up front. We define the scope, we define the architecture, the tech stack, we define the best practices we want to follow, and so on. And then we do the project settings. That's how we call it. So we have a tool that we built that consists of 5 agents, different agents that actually accept the project settings. And once we deliver the project settings, they can actually work fully autonomous. And they cover the implementation, the security aspect, the unit functional integration tests, and they even cover end-to-end testing, like automation, which compares obviously the results with the inputs that we provided in the project settings together with the Figma inputs, basically. So it works amazingly well according to the first results. So now we will do a deep dive this week and the next week into it. To see like if we are really happy, and if we are happy, then it's only about like solving the control and making sure that what AI does is really actually what we want from all aspects. And there basically we are now working on a separate project, which is basically AI code review, which actually reviews the code bases from different perspectives. It's actually 8 of them, including architecture, security, Git flow, documentation, coding standards, and so on. And basically we want this tool, which is completely independent and separate, to in the future to actually control our 24/7 coding capability and give the feedback. And only when the tool is happy with the quality, then the 24/7 coding capability can proceed. So we are still not there. We are working on it, but it's crazy. The opportunity that we have with this, it's just amazing. Like we go to a completely different level where we don't even assist AI anymore as human. We just actually then verify the end result. Yeah, these are just some challenges. Yeah, it's good. Some challenges that we were facing in the past, which we don't have now, but that we have new ones, as I mentioned. And the big challenge is actually the exponential growth in the opportunities and availability of the tools on the market. I mean, if you look from I just put the graph here from January, but it can also go a bit further before. But back then, we almost had kind of linear growth of these AI tools that are available in the market. And nowadays, it's completely exponential. And basically, it's really difficult to keep track on actually what kind of tools you should use. And if you don't like look at it all the time, you actually might miss the train, and you might not use the right thing at the right time. And I think it's very difficult to actually check all of them now because it's like thousands of them at the moment. So I think what we recommend and what we learned is that you really have to look at the problem that you're solving and how you would integrate this tool in your organization. And based on this, actually decide which tools you want to actually look at and try to put in your daily processes. But also keep in mind that, you need to make sure that this tool will be available mid to long term, basically, and that you don't build like too much of a dependency on it, because we see how this is changing, basically. We can go to the next. Yeah. Then obviously the onboarding, I touched this a little bit, onboarding of people to use it. I touched this a bit when it comes to developer. It was really interesting that almost any developer organization I talked to was first blocking the idea of like giving up responsibility and giving it to AI. And mostly, because developers were not sure that the quality will be good. How can I check that? And also they're kind of being moved outside of the comfortable zone. Because we all like to write our own code and we like to actually have it fully under control. But then actually what happened at some point, and I think we managed to do that successfully in our organization, is that we managed to actually transfer this message to the engineers that, we need to move one level above in the abstraction. So, like back then, back in the times, we had engineers that were the programming assembly. Nowadays, no one is programming assembly or machine code because basically machine is doing that very well. So now what we believe that is happening with object-oriented programming is exactly the same thing. Now a machine will be actually writing the code very well, and they are actually doing it quite good by now. And we don't have to look at it anymore. We just have to move one level above, and we make sure that what machine produces is performant. It does what it is supposed to do, and it's secure. Those are the 3 things we need to do. And our engineers understood that very well. Obviously, we had a lot of help from, let's say, most connected engineers in our organization who actually were early adopters, and they give it a try and then presented it to other colleagues. But yeah, it took us a long time to actually get everyone on board, and it was quite an effort. this is something we underestimated. And one other problem is also motivation, because for a lot of the things with AI, especially in the past, it worked quite well with the greenfield project. But as soon as you need to do some adjustments or changes on the code base, or you need to maintain it or whatever, the tools back then were kind of getting stuck. And it was really becoming a problem. And that, just at the moment when you convince someone to give it a try in your organization, after, let's say, 2 weeks, they come and say, this doesn't work. And then the motivation goes down, then they go back to the old habits, they don't want to use it, and so on. You can go to the next slide, Laurent. And this is just an example. It was my real life example. So basically, it took me 17 minutes to build the first version of the software, which is on the top. And then it took me 2 hours and 30 minutes just to add the side menu with the base 44 tool. And obviously you get frustrated and you say, okay, if I did it on my own, I would be done in that, like less than an hour, So yeah, that's just one example. And the current challenges that we are still facing at the moment is, over the time we defined certain process for all the aspects of software engineering, and these processes they involve certain tools. But because these tools are changing quite often, it's very difficult to actually keep those processes alive and to maintain them and just replace pieces when it's needed. And it's quite a difficult task, actually. And what you need to do is always keep your eyes open. You have to consider what kind of problems are you solving. Is your process for the new problem still the good process, or you need to actually change it according to the new problem that you are facing? And you need to be ready to, at some point you say, like, the process we use so far does not work. We need to start from scratch. So this happened to us a few times. So it's really, really challenging thing. But I think it's very important that you keep this alive and you keep changing the process, because the market is changing very fast. Yep. And obviously the biggest issue we face now also with this 24/7 coding capability. As I said, we are trying to solve that with the independent tool that we are building, but it's really controlling the AI. And it's not really controlling AI in terms of does it produce the right functionality. We will actually control that easily with the end-to-end testing and also acceptance matching against the acceptance criteria. It's more like what it does with the architecture, with the code base. Does it duplicate the code? How easy would be to expand this code later on? To understand really what it did internally. And I think we didn't crack that yet. And I think we talked to a lot of the organizations, a lot of different companies, they all have the same problem. But I hope that soon this will also be solved.
Awesome,
now
thanks.
Back to you, Laurent.
Yeah, thank you. So, that was more technical, but that was the goal, that you understand a bit, what is possible or what are we seeing is going to be possible soon. I think it's not going to change. And the first time we did this was a couple of months ago, where we had a similar presentation, and there we asked the question to the round, like, do you think AI is a hype? And there was a lot of people that would say, yes, it is. Okay, AI is a hype, that is true. But what is becoming very clear now is it's not just a hype, right? AI is the future of a lot of the areas. So in a lot of the business areas, especially in coding, that's just something that it excels at now. If you're not on the AI train, you will be left behind. This is not even a discussion anymore. It's very clearly the reality. And that was hotly debated 12 months ago. It's not anymore. And I think that's very important that we bring across this message. You can have a different opinion. That's obviously fine. But I can guarantee you, especially in software development or digital products, this is the future. Simple as that. And with that,
Laurent,
sorry, Nenad, go ahead.
Yeah, just to add one anecdote quickly. So for everyone, we also, one of our close partners, actually we invested in a company. It's called Decrue. That's founded by two AI gurus, really. So those are the early adopters, like the crazy guys. They're really into AI. They live AI every day. And we have regular contacts with them and talking to them also about this topic that Laurent just said, like, is it a hype? Is it going to stay, and so on? They built a tool that is somewhere in between Lovable and Cursor. So it's quite a good tool, and they invested a lot of time and efforts in this, and they're really into it. And then they said, look, at the beginning of this, when we started coding our first prototypes and so on, we did it ourselves. But nowadays, we develop our own tools with actually our own product. further. So they actually don't even code anymore. And he told me that now when I think about it, actually, I think our profession, developers, it's one of the first ones to go. And I said, yeah, okay, that's dangerous. Let's see like what else we can do out of it so that we are not gone, but actually that we are going one level above. So even the guys who are really like building this stuff and they're really deep into it, and they're really deep tech guys, they really believe that, yeah, it's the future.
Yeah. And that brings us to a side topic that I always like to talk about, where we have differing opinions, and that's why Nenad and I are always bringing this up, is will AI replace our jobs? And that is still the part that is being very highly debated, right? As I said in the beginning, it can do a lot of jobs in a controlled environment much better now than us. There's a lot of messages going around, big companies cutting employees, saying it's because of AI. But in reality, most of the time it's because during the Corona craziness, there was a lot of overhiring happening, which didn't pan out the way. So now you can just reduce and say it's because of AI, and you get out of it relatively easy. But I do believe personally that this transformation is going to go so fast, even though we humans and the way we adapt are the slowest part in technology. It's always been like that. But I think still this transition will go so fast that it will cut a lot of jobs globally. And I don't yet see how that's going to go down that easily. I'm usually an optimist, but on this topic, for the short term or the midterm, I'm actually quite pessimistic. I think we will face a lot of difficulties with a lot of jobs being replaced. Long term, humans are great. We will come up with new areas and new jobs, and we will get everybody back into it. But my opinion is very clearly that short to midterm, we will see a big job loss in the global economy in certain areas. Nenad has a little bit more optimistic view on it. So over to you.
Yeah, of course, being a CTO and dealing a lot with products, obviously all of us, we have kilometer long backlogs that we never actually get to do. And now with the AI, this is kind of the possibilities for actually getting that done is changing. So either we have these backlogs just because we just put some tasks there that we think, okay, it might be a good idea, but we are never going to do it, or we can really do it. So this is now our decision. And if we really want to handle our backlogs fully, now it's possible, right? So now with the AI and the existing team force and team base, we can do much more. I believe actually now that every human now, like the proper, let's say, senior engineer, the proper, like the guy who has a broad tech overview and knowledge can actually be 10 times fast and strong in the development as it was so far. So I think we can do much more of these backlogs, and I really believe that this will happen with a lot of the companies. Obviously, there will be people who want, as Laurent said, who won't like to get this this train and to jump on this hype. Those engineers, we already saw that in our organizations, they just decided to leave. But yeah, the ones who are staying and want to actually join this train, they will be able to do much more. So that's why I'm really hopeful, and I believe that it's not that we will do less. I think we will do much more than we did so far, and this will actually bring much more opportunity for every company to do more and be competitive. Just a quick story. It's like I always try to make the connection between the age when we, or the time when we got the machines came into the industry, right? So the robotic arms came and we started assembling the products much faster, and everyone back then thought, we will work now 2 hours a day. We will produce the enough products that we produced so far, the same amount, and then everything will be good. But what actually happened is that by all factories, they got access to these robotic arms, and then the competition started. So nowadays, if you look at the car industry, for instance, people work much more than before. They their shifts 10 hours and so on, and they produce a lot of products every day, but no one is still happy because competition is high. So I think something similar could happen here as well. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you, Nenad. So that was it. That was our rundown of how we are becoming an AI-first software agency and how we are helping our customers. Obviously, we didn't do a lot of sales talk now on how we're helping customers, but I think that's one of the areas that also one of the first questions we'll be focusing about is exactly that, right? Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was definitely a lot to unpack. That was a lot of information. Should we jump right into the Q&A?
Let's go.
Okay, so we have a question already, a few actually. So what does it take for companies that are around for many years to adopt AI and integrate it into everyday process? I have a feeling that many companies did not even manage to adopt a proper digitalization. Do they even have a chance for this massive leap and mind shift?
Awesome, Helena. That's a really good question. And I'm starting a blog around exactly this topic in 1 or 2 weeks from Holycode, because it's something that has been, not bothering, but it's something that keeps me thinking a lot of the times. You're right. A lot of the SMEs or a lot of the, let's say, not startups in this world, they didn't grow up with digital processes, and a lot of it is still not digitalized, right? So yes, a lot of them have missed out on digitalization. But why is that? And I'm not going to go into details here, but in my opinion, it's because a lot of these digitalization projects were quite expensive to do. The outcome was not always crystal clear, and the return on investment or the efficiency gain that you would get from it were not 60, 70, 80%. It would have been somewhere 10, 15, 20%. So you're constrained as an SME. You're usually, you don't have that much time, you don't have that much money available. So where are you going to put it? In that digitalization project that will take 2 times as long and probably give you 15% ROI, or you go and put it into marketing and sales. And I think what is shifting now is that with AI, the efficiency gain you can make on these projects is just getting much, much higher. So in certain areas, and we've seen this on customer projects that we've done, in certain areas, you can get a 90% efficiency increase. Just as an example, a customer wanted to have a solution that they have a meeting with the client, and then they can automatically out of that create not just in their CRM and everything, all the data, but actually create specific landing pages and specific proposals for this customer because they need to do that. And that would take them 4 hours usually for each client. Now it takes them 10 minutes. So this is just an incredible efficiency boost, right? And I think that will bring a lot of chances also for, a little bit older SMEs to actually go and look at that and say, we have a chance now to leapfrog this digitalization in a certain area. Just one example, it's a bit, it's not an SME, but still eBay. eBay has been around for so long. The management of eBay is now saying, this is going to be our chance to become a dominant player in this market again. They have 1% of market share. AWS, Amazon and all the others are running them into the ground. But they say, this is our chance, because with AI, you don't need to be a massive company to be able to get those efficiencies. And if you're a bit smaller and a bit more nimble, you can probably adjust your processes a little bit easier. They see this as their golden ticket to growing in their market space, right? And this is what I want SMEs to think about, especially in Switzerland and Germany, when they see that they say, ooh, AI could actually be a chance for us to get back market share or to grow and take this away from the big incumbents that are not that fast anymore. That's the way that we try to go about it, and that's the way that we advise our customers. But it's all about how can you integrate AI into your processes, and that's not an easy thing. And getting external help can make a lot of sense on this topic.
And where can we find this blog of yours?
It's not up yet, but it will be on Substack next week. And if you follow me on LinkedIn, you will get an invite anyway.
That is a note for Helena as well, if you want more information. So the next question, thank you so much. This is really helpful. With the AI running company, what are the legal implications that the startup need to be aware of?
So we're not lawyers. So I would say we're not going to go too much into detail here. We have an overview of all the big LLMs, different pricing plans that you can have with them, what it means for you data security, compliance and data privacy wise. So Lynn, if you want to know more about that, please reach out to Nenad or me. And we can share that with you. In general, it's not 100% true, but if you're on the biggest plan, usually your data is being stored only up to 30 days, and it's not being used for any training purposes, and you're usually compliant with most of the laws that you can find. That's a very generalistic answer. It's not true for everything. So if you want to see the details about it, just reach out to us, because we have a team that is specifically always following this and looking at the changes that are happening.
Yeah. And I think just to add to this, I mean, you will have these rules, but then you have to you have to say for yourself and for your customers, is this acceptable? Basically, you can also check with your legal team. But I think if it's acceptable and you are fine with those rules, then and you openly actually or disclose that to your customers that you are using such tools, then probably it should work.
Yeah, thank you. So the next one, if execution is no longer the bottleneck, is it imagination? Is the time of the dreamer coming?
Can you say again? Sorry, I didn't get
If execution is no longer the bottleneck, is it imagination? Is the time of the dreamer coming?
I think it's not, in my opinion, but maybe Nenad, you have a different thought on this. I think everyone will be able to build any kind of app in the future, right? So yes, execution is not in that sense, execution is not the most important anymore. Imagination is probably important, yeah. But I think what will be much more important is distribution. Because if there's 50 million apps on App Store, it will put even more focus on the ones that are able to grow and to stick out and to be special. Okay, that special is probably imagination, but a lot of it, in my opinion, is really sales, marketing, distribution know-how, and that's again execution. So I think it's just shifting. The bottleneck is shifting to another area of your company, and it's not going to be development anymore. Nenad?
No, I just what I also mentioned before. I think for AI, and I think this is going to stay for a long time with AI. It's really about the planning, and giving the right instructions to AI and actually controlling what it does. So, and I think you can use ready-to-go tools, but they all have their own flavors. If you use something like Holycode, that will probably evolve in the future as well. You will still be or needed to navigate what you really want, because AI cannot. AI lives in the past, right? So for the moment, it lives on the data that was given to it in the past, and it can actually use this data and these inputs to generate something good and think in the past. But if you are thinking about something in the future or being creative and so on, this is something that you will have to pass somehow to AI. And I think it's shifting a little bit to this. I call it planning and controlling basically. But if you can do that on your own, obviously, then you don't have the execution is not a problem from that side.
Yeah, makes sense. From Chris, can you elaborate a little about the process or tech stack, how you did automate software testing end to end?
I was not that. Yeah, that's for me. I was not really involved in the project itself. This was just a report that QA presented to the whole company in the past. But if you want to get more information, I can obviously dig that from the team and share. I'm more on the development side. So, but what I know is that they, for one project, they used Selenium. For another one was this JavaScript framework. What was it called? I forgot. But we can dig that up and share with you. You just reach out to me on LinkedIn or email, and I'm happy to share that.
I hope you got that, Chris. So the next one, do you have insights how many of your teams are actually using AI in their everyday work, whether if it's Claude Code, Cursor, or any other way? How many clients are open to it, or are they still a bit cautious due to potential legal implications or any other reason?
Sure, I can share there also a little bit. So we have a team, Claude, or actually most of the licenses we have are team-based, so we can actually monitor how many of them are using. That's why I said that actually I don't think we have anyone that is not being assisted by AI. So we didn't switch all of us to that we assist AI, but all of the developers are assisted by AI by now. Most of them, they use Claude Code. There are like a couple of them that are still on Cursor, but still using Claude Code below. And then for the QA, now there was some special Copilot, but there was one more specialized, I think Case.io and something like that. So additionally, that is a specialized QA AI tool as well. So we can follow that obviously with on Claude. We see the credits they spent and we see how much it goes and so on, and we see the increase every month. So it's getting more expensive. We can also see that, but I mean that's also expected. And I think we also did not see by now the real price of AI. I think all of these big ones, they invest still a lot. So basically they don't cover the costs of like when we use AI, they don't cover the costs from our subscriptions basically. So this is going to increase for sure. And what was the last question?
The second part was whether clients are open to it or whether they're still a bit cautious. Sure. I mean, I can also talk about that, and then Nenad, you can add. We see that the majority of the customers are very open to it, because what it does is it creates a faster time to market. If we're allowed to use AI, it brings the cost down, not by 10x obviously, but it does bring the cost down a little bit for the implementation. So the majority of them are open to it, but there are some caveats. Obviously, you know, we've had a customer that he wanted to make sure that every pull request that we do is being checked by one of his developers. Yeah, well, good luck. If we are writing software with AI, we're changing so many lines of code all the time that this person was just not capable of keeping up with it and got very frustrated. So we had to then obviously change the way of working at some point. But again, the process was old school process with new technology. It didn't work together. So that was one area. That's just one example. There's a couple of those examples where we can just see that, you know, the new way of working and the old way of working are not compatible in a lot of ways. And you either need to be able to accept that this is going to shift, or we can not apply it in the way that it will be capable. On the legal implications so far, we haven't had a lot of pushback. We've had one or two clients that said, yeah, for them, maybe it's too early. They first want to go through compliance and make sure that this works. So we did it the traditional way. But the big majority of customers, I mean, it's really simple. If it's faster and cheaper, somehow you find a way to make it work legally in your company, right? That's sort of what we see with the majority of the customers. Some who actually are still looking at it with a bit more critical thinking. But overall, I think there's no way around it. That's the future. What we also see is that, especially SMEs, they're very big on Microsoft technologies, you know, because they're already using it. It's their vendor that has gone through compliance and legal checks and everything. Yeah. At this point, whatever you implement with Copilot is just going to be 20% worse than if you use one of the other solutions. That's a standard. It's a very critical statement, but I found that to be true. So we're always trying to push our customers not to go with the Microsoft Copilot solutions, because they're just not as good as some of the other options on the market. But in some cases, you just have to do what the customer says, right? And then rather use Copilot and not use anything at all. That's sort of the philosophy there.
Maybe just to add one thing that was super interesting. This week I had a meeting with Decrue Bank. It's a regional bank that is our customer. And I was very shy to tell them, hey, you know, but if you want to go faster, because they had constraints with timeline, we could actually doing it AI assisted. I didn't even mention like that we can do it 24/7. And then they said, really, how does this work? And I also talked about this 24/7 coding capability and so on. I said, we are open to try this. Why not? And I said, yeah, but do you have some restriction regulations? I said, yeah, you know, like this would come when it comes to data, but as long as it's just like a code base related, then we don't have restrictions actually. And that was really interesting.
Yeah. The next one is financial KMUs seem to be worried about data and don't want to host multiple apps on premise. They want one many. Have you seen similar cases? Are you addressing the mindset shift?
I mean, yeah, I'm a bit confused because the on-premise side is more or less, a lot of it is the old view, in my opinion, right? Newer technology, you usually try to not have it on-premise, you try to have it in the cloud, or you try to have it somehow separated. So we see that a lot, that they come to us and say, yeah, we don't want to have that with us. We want to have something, a SaaS solution basically. That is happening quite often. But yeah, I'm not sure that Eric, I'm sorry, but I'm not sure that I understood the question properly. Maybe you can rephrase it below again, and then we can tackle it again.
Or yeah, unless Erica, you can clarify it now, but yeah. Otherwise.
Yeah, sure. I think I'm missing a word that's called typo. But what I wanted to say is lots of people that I've been speaking with, like small asset management firms, etc., external asset managers, they all talk about AI, but they don't want to have, like an absence tracker, which is running separately versus a process flow, which works separately versus, a financial reporting system that works separately. They want a solution that has multiple workflows. and it's just one fits many. Don't want to go into 15 different workflows, and that's the mindset. I think that it sounds cool to talk about AI, but they're not readily addressing the shift that AI would bring. And I was wondering if you're seeing this, and what are the challenges, and how are you addressing it?
That's sort of the same as or similar to what I said before, right? The companies then, they would like to use the Microsoft stack because Microsoft can have Copilot everywhere, sort of. That's sort of the approach. It's an 80-20 discussion. Like, are you okay with only getting 80% out of it, but you can just use what you already have, the sort of stack that Microsoft offers, for example? Or do you think that 20% extra is actually the thing that's going to make it work much, much better? And our findings so far point to proof of concepts that you do with this sort of 80% solution. They're not good enough. Then you put it into production, and then the team says, yeah, but if I write this, it's going to be much better. Or actually, it makes too many mistakes. So what we have found is that usually it's much better to build a specific solution for it and then make sure that this case is covered properly. And you need to somehow find a way to convince the customer of doing that. But not everybody's ready. So we also have quite a few cases where we offer that, and then they say, no, that doesn't, we don't want that. So we don't have an answer to probably fully solve this yet, but we can usually show them what we did and where it made sense and where it didn't. And some of them are convinced by it.
All right, thanks very much.
Yeah. Just maybe to add to this, like what also worked a few times is that, yes, we build, let's say, a custom solution for something, and then we try to integrate ready-to-go tools to it, basically, or write an automation for it. So then for them, it is different tools, but at least it's integrated, so they get everything at one place at then. So this also worked, like in a couple of cases.
Thank you. Thank you, Erica, for clarifying. So on to Pete's question. So this one is also, I think a little bit about him. The jump start to MVP is awesome. Version control after the first-ish mockup is a problem, which is lazy on my part when building. I think the real propriety here is having a database that is using private custom data for the prompts and this database updating. Where do you see AI evolving over time here, and yes, executing as time continues?
What do you mean by version control after the first mockup is a problem? Because we have a big debate about maintenance and adjustments and for
Hello?
Pete, right?
Hey, Pete. Can you hear me? Hey, you've probably just highlighted, that maintenance. Yeah, you go make a change, just goes and completely messes everything up. So that's kind of like that's like just a constant running problem. I think you might be doing
for you. Okay.
Yeah. For me, you might be doing really well. You might be, say, scraping in some kind of proprietary data from somewhere to make your prompts a little bit more unique in comparison to just kind of what anyone could just search, say, in Claude anyway. And then suddenly out of nowhere, it just starts spitting out naff answers. So you try and go, it's just, that's generally my problem.
I can share my challenges. So for instance, actually, like if it's originally built by AI and followed, as I said, these project settings that we prepare guidelines, rules, and so on, that you put in Cloud file in supporting sources and so on, like technical plan or whatever. If it's built like this from the scratch, let's say, typically we don't have actually that many issues to add new features. So usually it just follows the same principles. But what happens, and this controlling thing is, for instance, if you have a constant variable that is, I don't know, some sort of enumerator, and it needs it on two places, sometimes it misses that it already has it, and it creates duplicate again.
Yes.
So these kind of problems we see often, or like also some small security issues and so on. So that's why I'm saying it's always about this controlling thing. And I think the controlling is still a problem. As I said, we didn't solve it. We are now trying with this external tool. But either you have to really monitor what it does, and then go back and say, no, this you did wrong, I want to adjust this. Or basically you have some sort of automation that is helping you with this that you trust. So this is what I see at the moment. But this is for us, usually we can, with the human in the loop, we can actually do this with no problems. So we maintain our new features and so on. What is still a problem is if there is a code base this was written by human before, and the AI wants to take over for maintenance and adding new stuff. You know, like this, still we have a lot of issues, and we are now testing some approaches there as well.
Cool. Cheers. Cheers.
Thanks.
Thanks for asking. So we're just going to jump into perhaps 2 more questions, just so that everyone can finish on time. All right, I'll just continue on to the next one, which is Janos. In my experience, the front-end code that AI generates never quite matches the original design in tools like Figma. If AI agents are supposed to be working fully autonomously. Anyways,
autonomously,
how do you actually tackle that gap in practice?
Yeah, you're right. We also have similar experiences, but what we realized is that the more information you give it about every screen that it has to build, the better it is. So I don't know, if you have to see what are you facing, what kind of problems. Is it the sizing of components? Is it the alignment? Is it the fonts? Is it like whatever it is? Then you try to actually, in the next iteration, to give more information to this. And we didn't fix it 100%, obviously, but we managed to actually bring it to quite a good level where afterwards, when we do the end-to-end testing and comparisons of the screenshots and so on, it comes pretty close, really. So you still have to then later on maybe navigate a little bit and say, hey, look, this was not right or this was not good. But a lot of we are now much more ahead than we were when we started, basically. So it's I mean, as you know, AI is not deterministic. It still has a freedom to decide and so on. So that's going to always be a problem. But I think it really boils down to the planning and the information you give it to it.
Thank you. And thank you for answering the questions.
Laurent answered. Okay.
All right, so then the last
there's one left. Yeah, exactly.
Last one, how do you control code quality when AI is generating? So a huge amount of code on behalf of the developers.
Yeah, that's where we already touched that a little bit. So for the moment, we call this now that AI is human assisted. So we just follow what it does, and then we obviously we jump to all of the things that we see that are not good. It's not 100% that you check everything, and you can't, obviously. That's why we actually now think about this code review tool, AI code review tool, that has different perspectives to check. And even that one won't cover, I think, 100%. But then I'm just going back to the one of the first thoughts that I shared. Do we even have to check all the code in the future, or we just trust that AI will build certain things properly, like it's happening with machine code now, when the code is being transformed to the machine code? So no one really checks the machine code if it was done well or not. So I think what we need to make sure is that it's performant, secure, and it does what it's supposed to be done. So these are the 3 things that I always try to focus on.
Thank you so much. And also thank you for answering all the questions, and everyone who did drop a question. Feel free to contact them if you have any more, if you want a bigger deep dive. Otherwise, thank you for everyone's time here today. Yeah, and I wish everyone a good lunch if you're still having.
You have to.
Guata.
Thanks a lot, everyone. It was a pleasure to be here. See you.